Well, as we continue to observe and celebrate Women's Month, the day that we highlight matters, or today rather, we highlight matters of inequality that still persist against women at the workplace or within society. To take us further in this discussion, we are joined via Zoom by Advocate Nthabiseng Sepanya-Mogale from the Commission for Gender Equality. Thank you so much for joining us. A good afternoon to you. It is August, and once again we discuss the issue of gender inequality in South Africa. Do you find that we focus too much on it only in August?
To some extent, yes, it is so. We focus on it only in August, but at another level, a lot of organizations, both civil society, government, and others, are doing several things to work towards gender equality.
And let's talk about what some of those successes or those strides really are for you, what it is that we can celebrate in August 2022, in your view.
We can celebrate the hundreds and hundreds of laws that are there, but unfortunately are on paper. We do know that we're equal citizens in this country with equal suffrage. We have a right to be treated equally. We inherit equally now. We are equal partners in our marriages, be it civil or customary marriage. We are equal in our relationships, be it civil relationships or any other relationships. We are now equal. However, we still unfortunately feel very unsafe in those relationships. We feel very unsafe in those homes that the law says we can inherit. We still feel very unsafe in the workplace, where we are now supposed to be considered for our skills, expertise, training, and capabilities. So it's actually an unfortunate situation in the sense that we cannot celebrate what is on paper.
Yeah,
it has not translated to anything.
Yeah, and we can talk about how we can get into it translating into action, but let's save those recommendations for a little bit later, because as you focused on inequality, I then talked about the pay parity as well in workplaces.
Yes, that is one thing that is still lagging behind. In fact, the strangest thing is the torch bearer in that regard is our very government, where everybody, depending on what portfolio, what position they occupy, they get the salary that goes with that position, irrespective of their gender. However, in all other sectors, especially in this instance, private sector, we still find the disparities that exist. But some of those disparities have actually been entrenched and normalized. If you remember, just last week when we were celebrating Bafana Bafana, the headlines were actually saying windfall for Bafana Bafana. Windfall meaning 58,000 for each of them after they became the World CAF champions. Banyana, sorry about that.
Banyana.
It actually is an indictment on our media when you look at what is entailed in that statement to say windfall when it is only 58,000 for people who actually have not been getting paid well in any way.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting point. And you're talking now about pay disparities, but you also have that similar shortage in the private sector where positions of power are concerned for women, positions of leadership.
Yes, the sad thing about all the initiatives that are being done, it's almost like the private sector is exonerated. Because it's talking about the political space, it's talking about government space, it's talking about community space, everywhere else except in the private sector. When you look at the people who still rise to the upper echelons of the industries, formal commercial industries, it is still white male to a large extent. But when you look at the the people who are brought in to get the numbers, it is still unfortunately black females. So the value of black females is hardly ever recognized. They are seen as the people that we've got to bring in to tick the boxes.
That's concerning. And then the question becomes, how do we turn that around? Earlier, Advocate, you talked about we have the great policies on paper. How do we start seeing them actually being executed? Is it time that we start legislating, holding companies accountable for representation?
Yes, it is about time. In fact, it is one of our mandate at the Commission for Gender Equality. We do that very vigorously. We call on companies to take them to task about that. However, we need to see ourselves as South Africans, as the custodians and the owners and the birth bearers of the Constitution, so that we do not wait for somebody to say, hey, you've got to live up to these values and standards that we have set for ourselves in the Constitution. It is something that we've got to actually feel that this is my vision. I'm supposed to actually ensure that I live up to it. I'm supposed to ensure that I make sure that it is achieved in my space and beyond. But unfortunately in South Africa, it's so sad that everybody wants to be followed up, you know, for them to do the right thing.
Yeah. And there isn't that wanting to actively do it. But you've certainly given us a lot to think about. Thank you so much for speaking to us, Advocate Nthabiseng Sepanya-Mogale from the Commission for Gender Equality.